podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Network on Sunday, January 12th, 2020. This is episode 1660. Enjoy. The Tech Guy is brought to you from Twit's LastPass Studios. Securing every access point in your company doesn't have to be a challenge. LastPass unifies access and authentication to make securing your employees simple and secure. Check out lastpass.com/twit to learn more. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Epson's EcoTank printers. Now you can kiss expensive cartridges goodbye. The Epson EcoTank printer comes with a ridiculous amount of ink. Just fill and chill. Check out Epson's EcoTank printers at epson.com/EcoTankLeo. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Yes, it's time once again to talk tech, computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo the phone number, 888-827-5536. It's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, you can still use Skype out. You can call us, and it should be free. 888-827-5536. Easier to remember, 8888 Ask Leo, and just type out those letters. There is a website. We put all the stuff we talk about on the website, techguylabs.com. No sign up, no charge, no fee, no nothing. We just want you to have access to the data so that, you don't have to write stuff down while you're driving. That's dangerous. That's dangerous. I'm back from CES, the trade show formerly known as the Consumer Electronics Show. Lots of stuff, 4,500 booths, some booths with a dozen products. So as you might imagine, there was no way to see everything, not even close. In fact, I realized after going, and I hadn't been for 8 years, it's really like a football game. It's like the difference between going to a football game with bad seats and trying to figure out what those ants on the field are doing when they're all mushed together versus watching it on television where you have the best seat in the house. And honestly, it's a lot easier to cover CES from a distance. Let the bloggers, let the podcasts, let the journalists do it. They bring back all sorts of stuff, and then you can go through it because most of the stuff is kind of, You probably saw the Charmin toilet paper robot that brings you TP when you most need it. Not a product. Never going to be a product. It was there for one reason, to get your local news to show the robot and mention Charmin. It's a free ad. I went over to the booth. They had a golden toilet seat. I said, what does this do? I thought maybe this is some other new technology from Charmin. The guy said, it's just a gold toilet seat. I said, great, with the Charmin logo on it. Great. That's kind of CES in a nutshell. You could learn a lot more just by, scanning a few news articles, and you'd be a lot happier. It was, it's fun. I like going because you also see all your old friends, all the journalists who are not senior enough to say, I'm not doing it this year. If you get to a certain point in your tech journalism career where you can just say, no, not for me, not this year. And I think I probably won't do it again for another 10 years. Because if you do it every 10 years, then supposedly things change. And there were a few things. I mean, 8K is the new thing. When I was there last time, we were all happy with HD TV. That was the big thing. And 4K was coming. And so there were 4K sets on the show floor. Now there are 8K. That's not double 4K, despite how it sounds. It's doubled it in width and height. So it's 4 times the number of pixels. And if you have a 4K TV, you might look at it and say, do I really need 4 times more dots? Probably not. But it's coming anyway. It doesn't matter what you need. If you'll buy it, they'll make it. And you know what? People will look at it and they'll go, well, that's 8K. It's twice as good, honey. Well, now you can walk up. You could tap on the shoulder and say, no, actually, it's 4 times as good. And it's no better. It's simultaneously 4 times as good and no better. It's a tech industry paradox, but there's lots of those, right? The company AMD, which is a competitor to Intel, showed a microprocessor. Really, I guess it's for bragging rights. Their Ryzen microprocessor with 64 cores. That's 64 individual processors in the one. 64, and Intel can't, no one could do that. Only AMD, and that's why they showed it, right? You want to know how much it is? It costs, the chip alone, without a computer, costs $4,000. Then you have to add memory, a motherboard, a hard drive, a case, a screen, a keyboard, a mouse, all the other stuff. Just the chip by itself, the brain. And the truth is who's it? I don't know who it's for. Well, I do know who it's for, but it's not for you and me. It doesn't make your games better, which is really the highest end application most normal people ever need. If you are, however, working at Pixar or Disney, and you're trying to get your movie out the door before 2025, you would want this. 64 cores. They could all work at the same time, speeding up they call it the rendering, the drawing of the images in these computer animated movies. So this is the same thing. It's the same thing. I have, I'm very happy to say, I have on my desktop a 10-core iMac Pro. My laptop is a 6-core MacBook Pro. Is the 64-core AMD chip 8 times better? Yes and no. Simultaneously, it's 8 times better and it's no better. It depends what you're doing. And I'm not doing any of those things. I'm not making the next Pixar film in my living room. In fact, really, I probably should explain more often that this doesn't make a big difference, because most of the programs you use care more about 1 core, maybe 2, and the speed of that than the total number, 64 cores, because no operating system and very few programs are able to divide their tasks up. Say, you, processor 1, you do this, 2, you do that, 3, you do that, all the way up to 64. No, most programs don't lend themselves to that. Okay, processor 1, you take, anytime Leo types a space, you take that. If he types the A, that's processor 2. If he types a B, that's processor 3. If he types a C, processor 4. No word processor works like that. In fact, even if you have an ancient computer running Windows XP, Windows 95, DOS 6. Even if you have a computer from 1981, the original IBM PC, most of what it's doing is waiting for you to type another key. Almost 90% is just sitting there going, come on, Leo, hit another one. Hit it. What comes after A, Leo? Come on. In computer terms, we're just snails, even with an old, slow processor. So don't worry about that. There is something I did see, in fact, something I bought that might make a difference. We're starting to see the first 802.11ax Wi-Fi access points. It's a lot of words. In fact, so many words, the Wi-Fi Alliance people name this stuff. The one you have probably is an AC. It might be an N. They're the ones who name it. They finally said, forget this. We're just going to call it Wi-Fi 6. Because that way, if you have Wi-Fi 5, 802.11 AC, you'll know Wi-Fi 6 is one better. So Wi-Fi 6 is starting to come out now. The problem is, if you want to take advantage of it, you need 2 things. You need a Wi-Fi 6 enabled access point. I just bought a Netgear that does that. It's the Orbi the new Orbi Pro has Wi-Fi 6. It's for testing purposes to see if it makes a difference. And then your device also has to have Wi-Fi 6. Well, if you have a Samsung Galaxy Note 10 or an S10, it does. If you have an iPhone 11, it does. Very few laptops do, but the new crop of laptops we saw at CES will. So if you get, if you get an Dell XPS 13, get the brand new one, which is very pretty, very nice. It has Wi-Fi 6 in it. Then you have to get a new router. And what will you get, Leo? Well, it's probably going to be a little faster. Yeah, a little. Might not. It depends. Probably a little faster. The real point of Wi-Fi 6, it turns out, is we all have so many devices now attached to the Wi-Fi thanks to our locks and Amazon Echoes and TVs and all that. How many things you probably have in your house already? Used to be you'd have a computer, a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, and a phone, maybe 4 things. Your wife has a phone and a laptop. That's 6 things. Now, typically, people have 20, 30, 40. I have more than 50 devices in my house. I know I'm an outlier, but still. So Wi-Fi 6 will handle all these devices up to 60 devices now. And if everything's Wi-Fi 6, it'll kind of say, "Oh, you get this, you get it." Does it's all you need to know is better. It's a little better. Wi-Fi 6. Honey, we're getting Wi-Fi 6. It's one better. Pretty much that's the motto of the tech industry. It's simultaneously better and not better because it all depends. 8888 Ask Leo. This year, I'm one better. Give me a call. This year, Roberto is one better today. Happy birthday, Roberto. It's a big 6-0 for Roberto. That's a big one. That's a big one, Roberto. Congratulations. I remember when it's 128 threads, 64 cores. Don't confuse cores with threads, Mike B. Cores are physical processors, but then they're hyper-threaded, so it's 128 threads, not cores. If you know what I mean, if you get what I'm saying. It's a miracle, ladies and gentlemen. I give you the unbreakable Kimmy Schaffer. Hello, Kimmy Schaffer.
Good morning.
You're happy. I know why you're happy, too.
Wow. Yesterday was kind of amazing, but we just get to do it again next week.
I feel guilty because I'm not wearing any 49ers gear. See, that's our sport ball team.
Sport ball team, yes. I will be wearing some next week. I wore red yesterday in their honor, but
my
nails are red and gold.
Nice. That's all you need. I have one of those. I'll wear it next time. A puffy 49ers jacket, the gold solid.
Oh, you've got the old school one.
Old school solid
you have
gold
to wear
puffy
it next
jacket.
Sunday.
I will wear it next Sunday. It's really hot. Yeah. It's designed for games at Lambeau Field in beautiful Green Bay, Wisconsin.
I can't believe I have to cheer for the Cheeseheads today.
The snow is coming down. I have a cheesehead even.
I know you do, but
in my house, I have a cheesehead. Our 17-year-old is a Packers fan.
I don't understand that. But
it's going to be interesting today because his father, I'm his stepdad. His father comes over to watch the games.
Yeah.
And he is such a dyed-in-the-wool Niners fan that when the Packers beat the Niners last year, he wouldn't even talk to him. So it's a family drama coming up later today.
Well, if they win today, next week's going to be super exciting then. Because that's who will play.
I know. I'm glad we're not going. Well, I'm glad we're not going to Green Bay, though. I think it's snowing in Green Bay right now.
Who wants to be there?
Cold.
Yeah, Seattle might not be able to deal with that weather.
Not.
I think that's in their advantage.
I hope not.
To their advantage.
So you've been more to the point because geeks, as you probably know, are not interested.
About sports ball.
They call football hand egg.
Hand egg.
They're not interested in the hand egg score or who had a home run. They just want to talk about tech. So who should we talk to first?
Let's go to Rich in Garden Grove, California.
Rich. Hi, Rich. Thank you, Kim. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hey, Rich.
Leo?
Hey, welcome.
Hi. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for creating your podcast, your YouTube channel, and the techguylabs.com. I really appreciate it. I've learned a lot, even though I'm not a tech person.
Thank you. I had a lot of energy when I was younger.
Okay.
I kept doing things. You get to a certain age, you go, why did I do all those things?
Yeah.
But I'm glad. We love it. The podcasts are all week long. If you like the tech guy, you'll probably get really geeked out at twit.tv. It's This Week in Tech, TWIT.tv.
Okay.
What can I do for you, though?
Sounds
Thank
good.
you for your kind words. Yes.
Okay. So here's my problem. We have 8 filing cabinets full of files in the garage. We would like to digitize them, and my wife's in the medical and law field. So we'd like to get rid of the cabinets so we can add more stuff to our garage.
Yeah.
So,
well, the nice thing is go out and get I would get a big old network attached storage. That's basically it's a computer, but doesn't have a keyboard or mouse or monitor. It just sits on your network, and it has typically multiple drives, anywhere from 2 to 20. For you, if you have many filing cabinets, even 2 drives would probably be enough, but you could get 4 drives if you want. I use a NAS from a company called Synology I like a lot. In fact, I just upgraded my Synology NAS. I have 30 terabytes, which is many, many more filing cabinets than you have. But what happens is you fill it up with other things. You use it to back up. You use it for movies and TV shows, and so you can use that capacity. Then the next step is you got to scan it, get a scanner, something you can turn the paper in those filing cabinets into bits that you can store on your NAS. Truthfully, even if you have a laptop with a terabyte hard drive, you could probably get all those filing cabinets on that too. And if she wants to have it with her at all times, that'd be a great way to do it. There are a lot of scanners that will do this. I should give pride of place to our fine sponsor, Epson, because they make something, and it's kind of, the name confuses people. The Fast Photo, it's called. It's a photo scanner, but it has a very good sheet feed, and it can handle anything, including paper documents. And
so that's high volume?
Yeah, in fact, it even says on the webpage, high speed, high volume. And the reason you want a good sheet feeder is because you don't want to stand there one at a time feeding the paper in there. What you'll do is you'll take her pleadings, and, those are long form, special size legal page. You take the staples out if they're staples, but then you can just put the individual pages in the sheet feed, and it just goes shroom, 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 shroom. And then when it's done, you come back and you put another stack in and another stack. It's about 1 a second. It's very fast.
Okay, so would this work with, I have a Chromebook, and I had subscribed to Evernote Premium, so that would work with that system?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't. Chromebooks work with printers and scanners. I'll just mention some others because there are other companies that do this. There's one called Neat Receipt, and they also make a document scanner. As you can tell from their name, they expect you to scan receipts, but it also will scan plain old documents. Here's the real question. Do you want OCR? Do you want to turn the documents into editable text, or do you just want a PDF of the documents?
Yeah, I think PDF would be fine.
Yeah, good. Because OCR is hard because, the typeface, if it's tiny type, it can make it hard. You can, I wouldn't say don't OCR it. You can go ahead and do that, and most of these scanners will come with some OCR. Just don't expect a perfect copy, but it'll give you enough of the text so you can search. And then you pull up the PDF and you say, oh, yeah, that's what it says. So it's nice to have that. Neat.com or Epson.com/fastphoto, either one would do that. You're looking for a sheet feeder that's fast.
Right.
Yeah, because you want to just kind of go in the garage. You can even put it in the garage. I'm pretty sure it'll work with a Chromebook. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because I looked at a Scan Snap that's rated very highly.
That's another good one. I've used them for years.
IX500, but it says Mac and it says PC. And I was trying to search, it doesn't say anything about Chromebook. So I don't know if I could go ahead and scan the stuff in, scan it to Evernote, and then since I have the Evernote on the Chromebook, it would work.
Yeah, that should work.
Maybe not. I don't
Google
know.
has changed the landscape. It used to support something called Cloud Print, and they're turning that off. But I think now, because of that, they have native drivers in all this stuff. So I think, it should work just fine. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I said the G word and it woke up. Hey, Sam.
Hey, Leo. How are you?
You got home okay, I take it.
I did. Didn't bring any substantial bugs back with me either. So
I know we were
fairly healthy.
Lisa was sick to begin with, but and came home sick, but I didn't get it, so that's good. Yeah. I'm very happy. I'm not a horse.
Another one. Even survived my ride in a Russian autonomous car.
Whoa. Somebody was saying that some of the Waymos didn't have safety drivers.
They have a few that are part of their early rider program in Chandler.
Yikes.
So it's part of the beta program. It's not part of the paid Waymo One service. So they do have some that they're running without safety drivers. But there's still somebody from Waymo in the vehicle. They're just not in the driver's seat.
Oh, interesting.
And the Yandex car that I rode in on Wednesday morning also did not have a safety driver. That
scares me.
There was somebody in the right front seat with his hand hovering near the big red button, the kill switch, to shut the thing down in case anything went wrong. But fortunately, that never happened.
So they drive well, and I mean, the traffic was horrific at CES. It was terrible.
Well, where Yandex was doing their demos from, they were operating out of the Hard Rock Hotel garage.
They were in the parking lot.
So it was down in the southeast side of Vegas. Yeah. So and it was early in the morning, so there was very little traffic along the loop that we drove on. So it was a pretty easy route.
Is that what you want to talk about? What did you just talk about CES, I guess, in general?
Oh, we can talk about CES in general, and I also wanted to touch on the Sony Vision S concept that's behind me there. That's the Sony EV that we saw, which I don't believe that Sony's ever actually going to build.
John Gruber was great during Fireball. He said they might as well call it the concept electronics show. Everybody shows concepts that are never going to ship.
Well, certainly from an automotive standpoint, that is mostly the case. Most of the vehicles you see there are not production intent vehicles.
Somebody wants to talk more about the amazing Audi smart headlights.
Oh yeah, we can do that.
I thought that was the coolest thing I saw.
Yeah.
And why we can't get them in the United States yet.
Yeah, I actually saw those demoed at the LA Auto Show, and they were it was so cool. That's why I wanted to do it during our time on Tuesday.
Okay. Save it for our time on Tuesday.
Okay.
So just tune in Tuesday. Which show are you going to be on Tuesday?
No, I'm talking about last Tuesday.
Oh yeah, we did it. We did it at our CES thing. I feel guilty because it was I did such a terrible job shooting it. Made some bad choices. It gave you a sense of immediacy, but I feel like I should have probably brought a professional shooter with me. I just wanted to go really light.
Yeah. No, it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun doing it. And I think
the videos. There's some good stuff there.
Yeah, there was a lot of good stuff if you could bear with the sound and the video and the focusing and the lighting.
I was surprised at how good it actually sounded with that shotgun mic.
That shotgun's a great mic.
Really clear.
I agree. I think in some ways,
especially with all the ambient noise.
Yeah, I think in some ways it'd be better than a handheld. It's very, very directional. The problem is if you're not aiming at the person, they get off mic, and so that's a little tricky. You have to. Yeah. We finally learned don't shoot anything but the people. Get them close together. Get them, shoot them, and then you can shoot all the B-roll later. But it took us a while to learn that one. I feel like I don't know. I feel
next year,
never again.
You got it right next year.
Never again. I see you made it home safe and sound.
I did. Got home on Thursday afternoon without any major illnesses, so I consider myself lucky.
It's funny because used to be the Detroit Auto Show followed CES, and it would be a crazy week. But they've moved that now, right?
Usually this time after CES, I would already be well into Detroit Auto Show stuff, but they've moved the auto show to June this year.
Hallelujah!
So I think hopefully it should be a little easier, so I can actually give me a little time to decompress after CES.
Is CES as good for cars as a car show? No.
Well, it's different. At auto shows, what we see is the products that are coming to market, this year and the following year, the stuff that they're actually trying to sell. CES is about a lot of technologies that typically we might be seeing 5 or 10 years down the road, or in many cases, never.
My friend, the blogger John Gruber, said they should rename it the Concept Electronics Show because it's all concept. In fact, you're sitting in front of a concept vehicle.
Yeah, this was of all the things at CES in 2020, this was probably one of the single biggest surprises. Nobody that I know of was expecting a concept car from Sony. Yeah. So Sony during their press conference, I guess I didn't actually see the press conference, but I guess right towards the end of the press conference, they rolled out this car they called the Vision S, which is a 4-door electric sedan. Nothing too earth-shattering about that. It's an increasingly common thing. Similar in size to like a Tesla model.
It looks like it could be a Tesla, frankly. But,
And
is it electric? Is it self-driving?
It is all electric.
Yeah.
Not self-driving. In fact, I'm not sure that it's even like fully drivable.
It's never driving.
Typical concept cars, from any company are usually, they can barely move under their own power, just enough to get them up onto the stage and off the stage and maybe to a show stand.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's probably a little more drivable than that. So what this was, Sony didn't actually build this car. They worked with a supplier called Magna International. They're one of the largest automotive suppliers in the world. And Magna, through their various divisions, builds just about everything that goes into vehicles today, except maybe tires is about one of the only things they don't do. They do, a lot of interior stuff, a lot of electronics, sensors, lights, wheels, body stampings, and they even assemble complete vehicles under contract for other car makers. Like for example, they have a plant in Austria, a division called Magna Steyr, where they produce vehicles for Jaguar, including the Jaguar I-Pace. They produce the Mini Countryman crossover there.
Yeah.
They produce vehicles for BMW. The new BMW Z4 and Toyota Supra are built there. So they build vehicles for many manufacturers, doing assembly, local assembly for other companies. So because they have all these parts and components available to them, they have their own in-house design studio. Sony went to Magna to have them build this car for them as a showcase for stuff that Sony manufactures that they want to sell to the auto industry. So things like OLED displays for the interior display, other displays for the like the rear seat entertainment system, cameras that can be used for driver assist features or for the exterior camera mirror systems. Sony's even getting into making LiDAR sensors because they already make lasers for things like Blu-ray players. So why not, do the same for light? You repurpose that technology for LiDAR. So there's a whole bunch of different components that some of which Sony already sells, some of which they'd like to get into the market for, that they use this as a showcase to show off, what can be done with Sony technologies.
Yeah, there was a crowd around that car all week long. People were very interested in it. I wonder, though, really, if you're not going to build a car, it's not that meaningful to show one. That's the problem I have with the CES anyway, is just there's all this stuff that never will ship.
Yeah. Well, like as I said, if you want it, as a platform, as a showcase to show off, here's the technologies that we do, and here's how easily it can be integrated into your cars.
Is that their goal? Is to get end users to put them in, or to get car companies to use them?
To get car makers to buy their stuff.
So that was the intended audience, right?
Yeah, and because CES is not open to consumers anyway. That's what the companies that go to CES, they're trying to sell stuff to each other. When suppliers like Sony or Aptiv or Bosch go there, they're looking for the automaker customers to look at their technologies and buy them. And for the automakers, it's always been about just kind of showing off to technology media some of their future tech and where they're going 5 or 10 years down the road.
Right. What else did you see at CES that was of interest? We walked around. We saw a lot of self-driving cars. Did you ride in any of those?
I did. I rode in a couple of different ones. I got several rides while using Lyft in some of Aptiv's automated vehicles.
They've been in Vegas for a while. That's not just for CES.
Yeah, they've been operating commercial service there with Lyft for almost 2 years now.
How does it? Is it like? Are you going extra slow? Do you feel like a regular person is driving?
No, it's going about the same speed as the rest of traffic on Las Vegas Boulevard, which is
not
slow,
very fast. That's challenging. There's pedestrians. There's stop and go. It's kind of. I would not want to drive in Vegas during a big trade show like that. It was crazy.
Yeah, no, it was pretty intense.
We had a human taxi driver that almost killed us.
Well, I also rode in one of Yandex's prototype automated vehicles, and that was the first time on public streets without a safety driver.
Nobody in the driver's seat.
Nobody in the driver's seat. There's a guy in the right front seat with his hand hovering near the big red button to shut the system off if anything went wrong.
Yandex car from Russia.
Yeah,
Russia.
And then you and I and Ant also saw a demo of Audi's latest headlight technology, which somebody asked about in the chat room.
We have a video of that. That was really cool. The headlights would project lane markers ahead of you, so you could see where the car was going to be if it was drifting or whatever. Also these LED headlights, but you can't buy them in the U.S.
No, they're not legal in the U.S. right now. The U.S. headlight regulations are still pretty strict. They're in the process. NHTSA, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, is evaluating the rules to. Right now, there's a comment period out on changes to those regulations.
That's reasonable because, it might look good for you as the driver, but who knows what it looks like to the oncoming traffic. They've got to...
Well, and that's what's cool about these lights. They're called digital matrix LEDs, and Audi actually uses DLP technology, which you might remember from projection TVs.
Yeah.
So they actually use a TI DLP chip in there, and it's a 1.3 megapixel display, basically. So from the LEDs, it can cast any kind of light pattern on the road.
Can you wink at cute women going in the other direction with your headlights?
You could do that. Or one of the things it can do is if there's a car coming up to you or you're following somebody, it can mask out.
Slow down, buddy.
So you can have really bright lights around them without blinding.
So you don't. Drivers. Yeah, because that's some of the problems with auto high beams is suddenly you're in the dark. So this way you would still be able to see everything. You just wouldn't blind the driver oncoming.
Exactly. Yeah,
How
it's really cool technology. It's
Sam
available
Abuelsamid. I'm sure you'll be talking about all this and more on your podcast, Wheel Bearings, at wheelbearings.media. He's also with Navigant Research. Joins us every week. Got to get you on our shows, our regular podcasts soon, too, to talk about all this. It's really a fascinating time for automobiles. Thank you, Sam.
Talk to you next week, Leo.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy, back to the phones right after this. Yeah, I love those LEDs. I can't, that would be worth what. You think it'll be next year or?
I would guess maybe latter half of 2021. So like for 2022 models, by the time NHTSA gets around and goes through the whole process of changing the regulations, I think that's probably about the soonest we'll see them in the U.S.
I don't mind. I don't mind a focus on safety. I think that's fine.
Yeah,
it's the same reason we don't have camera mirrors yet.
Right, and that's the other regulation that they're evaluating right now. They want to change. They're trying to change that to allow the camera mirror systems.
Right.
So hopefully in the next year or two, we'll have updated regulations and we can start bringing those technologies to the U.S. market.
Nice. My buddy Roberto Baldwin just got a gig with Car and Driver. He's going to cover, auto tech for Car and Driver. I thought that was
good gig news for him, especially since he's based in the Bay Area.
Yeah, we love Roberto. So
yeah.
Well, hey, it was so much fun. Thank you so much for your help. We got some great stuff in the can from Sam at CES, and I'm glad you
finally
survived.
got to sit in the Mach-E.
Oh man, I want that car. Oh, we didn't even get to talk about that. I have a new friend, however, Darren Palmer, my new best buddy. Darren, hi, Darren.
And maybe we can get Dave Parasek to send you some special parts for your car.
I feel like Darren's going to move me up a little bit in the line. I mean, I reserved it.
I think that might be a distinct possibility.
I reserved it the day after they announced it, so I'm not too far behind.
And you'll still be able to get the full $7,500 federal tax credit on it.
I know. I really liked that car. I really did. I thought it was really nice. The new Mustang.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good size. I think it'll do well.
I think Lisa and I will be happy driving it. And in honor of Lisa, I'm going to get red.
Oh, you're not going to go with the carbon metallic?
Carbon metallic. I saw it. They had a booth with the samples, and it looked a little lighter than I thought. It was a little gray.
Yeah.
And I don't want gray. I would take black. But if failing black, I'm going to get red. But I can't wait.
Yeah.
Okay, Sam. Thank you for really for helping me with that. I appreciate it. It was so
fun.
funny.
I enjoyed it. It was the most fun 2 hours of my week. So.
Oh, it was awesome. You and I were standing there talking to the PR rep for Ford, and I see Darren come like jogging over and kind of bouncing up and down. He goes, "Is that Leo Laporte? Is that Leo Laporte?" So I guess, I don't know, he wasn't our originally scheduled interviewer, I don't think, but he sure jumped in and we got him. It looked great.
Yeah, no, Darren's fantastic.
Yeah.
I've talked to him a few times before.
Really great. And that British accent. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
He's very enthusiastic about it. I mean,
should
everybody
be.
working on the Mach-E team is so excited about this project.
That Team Edison is such a good idea. The whole idea of that Skunk Works it's really how Silicon Valley works. It's such a departure for Detroit.
Yeah.
I think it's great. Yeah. One of the things Sam did for us, he took us over at CES. He took us over to the Ford booth and went over there because I was very interested in the new electric Mustang, the Mach-E. I already put a order down, and I just wanted to see it, and I was really thrilled because one of the Ford executives, I think he's a big shot, Darren Palmer, who was responsible for creating Team Edison, the kind of Skunk Works project to design this electric vehicle from the ground up, came running over. Said, Leo, I listened to the show. I'm so excited you're getting a Mach-E. I said, me too. So he gave us a tour. We actually were able to get inside it and shoot what it looked like from the inside. They weren't letting others inside it, so we were very fortunate. That was a lot of fun. That's going to be a fun vehicle to drive. 8888. Ask Leo is the phone number, and we go on to line 2. That is Don in Springfield, Illinois. Hello, Don.
Hi, Leo. I logged into my Microsoft account and checked into the sign-in history.
Yeah.
And it shows an IP address from Ukraine. Tries to log into my account once a week or so.
Yeah.
And they always enter the wrong password.
Good.
Should I be scared about this?
No, it's universal. This is why we turn on two-factor and why we don't reuse passwords and why we don't use easy-to-guess passwords. But I bet you're not doing any of those things. You've got a hard, long, crazy password, right?
I have LastPass, and they made a password for me.
Nice. Now you're good. Now you're making me smile. You're making me happy. Not only because they're a sponsor. In fact, they named our Twit studios are now the Twit LastPass studios, so I'm a big fan. But LastPass generated a very strong random password. So that hacker, he can try once a week for the rest of his life. He'll never be able to guess it. Somehow he got your email address. That's not hard, right? Your Microsoft login. That's easy. Your email address is all over. You know that because we all get a lot of spam. So he's not really trying much that you should worry about. Do turn on two-factor. That's the thing where even if he guessed the password, he still have to have a 6-digit code or approve it on the phone. Microsoft Authenticator does a nice job of that. If you have that on your phone, it'll say, are you trying to log in? And you say yes or no.
What's that app called?
It's called Microsoft Authenticator. And you set it up with your Microsoft account. And actually, I really like it because from then on, when you're logging into Windows, when you do it the first time, it'll say you can enter the password or you can just say yes on the authenticator. It saves me a lot of typing. It is two-factor, so it makes it more secure. It's a single sign-on app is what they call it. And I think it's well worth, if you use Microsoft accounts in any respect, well worth using the Microsoft Authenticator. But I have anybody who's got anything on the internet is going to get this from time to time. I have, for instance, a network-attached storage that's online, and I put it in public so I can get files from it as I'm moving around. And it has a very nice feature. If somebody tries to, I can say nobody can log in from China. Or I can say if somebody tries to log in and fails 5 times, block that IP address. There's all sorts of features like that. And when I look at the logs of that or my website or anything that's publicly on the internet, I see lots of login attempts. They're just trying. That doesn't mean they're going to get in. You're doing everything right.
It's the same IP address from Ukraine. He does it once a week, so that's why I was worried.
Yeah, well, you got to admire his pluck. The bigger concern would be some sort of automated attack where he logs in 100 times in an hour, because that means they're trying a bunch of different passwords. What is very likely here, and this is I'm going to kind of drill down in this because we say all the time, don't reuse passwords. Here's why. It's very likely at some point your Microsoft email address, your Outlook.com email address, and a password got leaked out in a breach. You know, there have been so many breaches. There's breaches all the time. There's new breaches every day. The newest is TravelX got breached on December 31st. There's just all the time. And when somebody gets addresses and passwords, the first thing they try is to log in. I bet you that same guy's tried to log into your Twitter account, your every other account you could possibly have with those credentials. He has a password, and he has a login. It might be a password you used on the Marriott site. Remember Marriott? They got breached. 500 million records got leaked out, certainly mine and yours. So what they've got is whatever email you used with Marriott and the password you used. But you're smart. You didn't reuse that password. You reset your Marriott password. He's got exactly nothing. Zippo. He's got your email. So he's probably trying every week just to see if, I don't know, maybe if you changed it back to the old password, something like that. It's nothing to worry about. It's the reason we use passwords, and it's the reason we don't reuse passwords. It's also the reason you use LastPass. It's the reason we use two-factor authentication. All of these things will protect you against exactly that kind of attack, so don't worry about it.
Thanks, Leo. I appreciate it.
Great question. You're paying attention. See, a lot of people this is happening to all the time, and they don't, first of all, not everybody will tell you, but you can look at your Gmail account and see if people have tried to log in from unusual countries. A good security system will say no logins from. You might be able to say only from the U.S. If you travel, then for instance, I think my Gmail's that way. If I go to Japan on vacation, I have to tell it, hey, I'm going to be logging in from Japan. Otherwise, it won't let me. Things like that. Those are very valuable tools. Using a password manager, also very valuable. Don't reuse passwords. And wherever you can, turn on two-factor. Use an authenticator on your phone. And that makes you even more than twice as safe. Thank you for the call. Great question. Line 3, John in Valencia, California. Hi, John.
Hey, Leo, long-time viewer. I'm back in the day.
Thank you.
How you doing today?
It's good to talk to you. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I have a little problem with at&t. Last night I logged into my account for the second time because I kept getting emails from them. And I noticed that it has internet usage data.
Yeah.
This is from my home internet.
Yeah.
And it already had me using 2.15 gigabytes for Sunday. Meanwhile, it was still Saturday.
Wow. Okay, so there's two things at play here. Probably the date and time are not Valencia, California date and time. They're probably using UTC, Universal Coordinated Time. So Sunday comes 8 hours earlier. But then it's a legit question. Were you watching Netflix last night or streaming TV of any kind?
No, it was just on my laptop.
Huh. That does sound like an awful lot. I'm going to guess that the reason they had it ahead of time was because they're using UTC. But you should be able to check that. Does it have a timestamp?
No, it doesn't.
I bet it's. They're using. Remember, we used to call it Greenwich Mean Time because
right.
AT&T's got at least at least 4 time zones they're worried about. So rather than worry about the time zone, they just do UTC. A lot of computers do that. So that's why it's tomorrow.
Also too, on Wednesday, I wasn't even home. Never used the.
That worries me more. So you're.
They had me for 8.2.
Look, that's an awful lot. That's an awful lot. Now remember though. Downloads happen, email check and stuff, but 8 gigs is a lot of data. I would, if your router, I don't know, you probably have AT&T router, but if your router can log, I would look at your local log, and you might even connect, if you can get a local log, then say to AT&T, hey, look, here's my local log. If you're on a Windows machine, Windows will tell you how much that machine is used. But just remember, there are other things in your system. Do you have security cameras?
Not at this time. I just moved, so
good.
None of that's hooked
Okay.
up. The only thing I have hooked up really is my MacBook, my TV, and my Fire TV.
Okay. TV does use a lot, but it doesn't use it when you're not watching it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially when it's off.
Do you use your own router or do you use AT&T's?
I was using theirs because like I said, I just moved.
Right. And if you have UVerse, you have to.
And then after I spoke with their technician finally.
So a good router, almost any good router will have logs of data usage. I would look there. It's
monitoring it from there.
Yeah, but I mean, remember they win. If in a case of a tie, the judge's decision is final. they're going to win. But I would look at, if you can log it, that's always a good idea. And then you can at least call them and say, look, I don't know what you're talking about. The time thing is absolutely because they use UTC. I've seen people complain about that before. But the amount of data, especially if you're not home and it uses 8 gigs, that's a big question mark. Is somebody borrowing your Wi-Fi? You have a password on it?
The password, I use the long password.
Good. Yeah, use the WPA2 encryption.
Yeah, that was the way, it was their router at first. And I changed the name of it, put in a high-level security passcode, and, excuse me, then turn around and just noticed it last night, 8.2. I was like, I wasn't even home Wednesday.
Well,
never used it.
I can think of things that might. For instance, Windows 10 downloads updates in the background ahead of time.
Don't have a Windows computer.
Good man.
Mac. Strictly Mac. Well, that was from you from back in the day.
Good man. I wonder if the Mac downloaded something in the background. That's why a log is really helpful, because then it'll say which device, where that 8 gigs went.
Yeah, their router, I was looking for the log, and even last night with their technician.
Yeah.
Because when I explained it to him, finally when I got someone in the U.S., he turned around and he goes, I've never seen this before.
Oh, interesting.
He says, that is so weird. He goes, what do you mean? And he's like, and their response is, you have to call on Monday to speak to billing. Maybe they would know. And I'm sitting there going, well, it's not the case. I mean, you're ready for 6 days of having the service. I'm already at 70 gigabytes.
And you have a bandwidth cap on it?
1 terabyte. That's AT&T's.
Yeah, same with the Comcast for me at home, and I hit that a lot. Streaming uses a lot. Make sure you stop. If you leave Netflix on in the background, and then don't turn off the TV, but don't turn off the device, it could still stream. That's why a log is so helpful, because then you can see which device sucked up all that data.
Yeah, well, that's why I hooked up my Nighthawk.
Good. Yeah, your Nighthawk will do that. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And
So watch it like a hawk now. Watch it like a hawk.
Oh, definitely.
That's a good question. I appreciate it.
I just since they couldn't answer my question, that their tech support could not answer that question. It's the first time they've even seen this.
Well, I've seen it. I mean, stuff downloads a lot. I mean, it's not unusual. Windows does this in the background. It drives me crazy. It downloads 6 or 7 gigabytes overnight.
Well, even like last night, I purposely shut everything down. Well, took a reading on my MacBook Pro, shut that down. The only thing that was connected was my flat screen, and it wasn't even connected because I didn't put my router back onto it, my new router back onto it. So there was nothing hooked up. And woke up this morning and it was at 5.5 gigs.
Oh yeah, somebody's using your internet.
From 3, well, I changed routers, changed passcodes. So I think it's something to do with AT&T.
Maybe. Yeah.
Because I didn't use the same passcodes.
Don't trust them. That's why you want to log it and see.
And LastPass that's where that's the passcode that I generated through LastPass. So it's highly secured.
And you're using WPA2. Do you have a guest network on there?
No, I shut that off. There's no need for it. It's just me. Well, me and my kid. But she hasn't even connected yet.
Well, it sounds like, it does sound like somebody's stealing your bandwidth. But I just would say that's not unusual for stuff to run in the background and use bandwidth. That seems like an awful lot. That's why you got to get a log. You got to see which IP address is using it, and you'll know if somebody's stealing it. You'll nab them.
Oh, definitely. That's why hence the phone call, because I haven't hooked up my 2 iMacs yet, or my Apple TV, my daughter's Apple TV, and the 2 Google Homes.
Well, you're going to go through a terabyte fast.
Exactly. That's why, and I'm noticing, and like I said, I found this by accident last night, so I was like, okay, something's not right here, especially for Wednesday. I was like, how do I use 8 gigabytes?
Yeah.
Not even being home. I mean, yes, on the 7th I used it. And
it sounds like AT&T is screwing up, and I think you should definitely pursue this with them. But it'll help a lot. Well, one thing is disconnect everything and then see what they do. But the other thing that'll help a lot is to have a log and to be able to show them the log and say, look. Anyway, that's all I can say. I'm glad you listen. I'm going to run, but thank you.
All right, thanks for taking the phone.
All right, let me know what Let me know what happens. I'd love to find out. That's a mystery.
You got it.
All right, John.
All right,
take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk tech, computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, all that jazz, everything with a chip in it or 64 chips in it. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. 888-827-5536, toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, still call. Just use Skype out. It's free. 8888 Ask Leo. Website, techguylabs.com. Talk a little more to John from Valencia, who's got the case of the missing gigabytes. He wasn't even home. And AT&T says he used 8 gigabytes a day. That's a lot of data. 8 gigabytes of data while he was away from home. And, maybe AT&T is testing him. Maybe they're saying, you don't have unlimited bandwidth. This is why they don't have it. See, if you had unlimited bandwidth, you wouldn't care. Big deal. But they limit him. They only give him 1,000 gigabytes a month, a terabyte a month. And if he uses up all 1,000 gigabytes, well, then they're going to charge him more. 1,000 is not a lot, especially if you have a teenage daughter watches streaming TV. You watch streaming TV. You can go through a gigabyte an hour pretty easily. But he's not home, she said. I just moved. None of this is connected. So that's why a router can be your best friend. Now, different routers have different capabilities. That's the device, that you plug into your cable modem or your DSL modem, and then it plugs into the wall. And the router is the thing that tells, each computer. So you can use more than one computer with it. It says, you're going to be, today your identity is this one, yours is this. They call it network address translation, so that you can have multiple computers on a single internet address. That's the router. It's routing the traffic. You go here. That packet, that's for you. That's for you, just like that. But everything goes through the router, right? So a good router will keep an eye on all the bits going to all the devices and can even give you a log that you can, you go into your router's interface. Depends, each router has a different place looking activity or logging and you can see, sometimes you have to just look at each device and see how much data each device has used. Almost every router I've used has some form of this, and that's going to be helpful. You'll at least know if anything used 8 gigabytes and which thing did. Nowadays, computers can be very piggy. A Windows 10 will download an entire update in the background without telling you. That could easily be 8 gigabytes. I don't know if Macs do the same thing, but I wouldn't be surprised. There's all sorts of little stuff going on in the background. You just get an email, things like that. Streaming devices. Somebody said in the chat room, maybe he has a Fire TV and he turned the TV off, but the TV kept watching Netflix all through the night. It just didn't display. That could happen, right? So it's worth checking out. Just he said he has a Nighthawk. Those are good. He'll be able to look in the settings of the router and see what's using all that data. Let's go to Apple Valley. Lon is on the line. Hello, Lon. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. How you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Just fine. Hopefully you're going to be able to solve my problem.
Well, I hope so, too. I haven't been doing so well yet, but let's see.
Okay. Hey, so I had a couple hard drives fail, and I had them in the shop, and then one of them I sent back to the manufacturer, and he had to take it apart, and he sent me back a 4 terabyte external hard drive. So during that 9 months or so, I put in another hard drive and copied some files. Anyway, bottom line is I have 2 hard drives and 2 external drives.
Oh,
and
boy.
They all have a mishmash of basically the same stuff.
Oh, no.
It's not condensed into one hard drive. And I'm wondering if there's any software available so it can interrogate everybody and deposit all of the information on just a one hard drive.
You want a what they call a merge operation.
Okay.
Is it Windows or Mac?
Windows.
So, yeah, what you'd like is, and this would be an easy thing to do. I'm just going to check and see if anybody's written something like that. I'm sure that there is software out there that would do that.
Again, it's not duplicating files and taking up space.
Yeah, what it should do is it should look at all the drives. It should say, here's a file. Now, it's tricky because how are you going to determine if the file's the same? You're going to look at the name and the creation date and the modification date. If all three are the same, it's probably the same file, but maybe not. So what a good merge program will do, the same thing a good deduplication program will do. It'll actually look at the contents of the file. That means it's going to be a little bit slow. I see, some open source software like WinMerge that is a Windows tool for visual difference display. Yeah, you don't care about visual. You just want to move these together.
It's also going to be just documents and photos.
Yeah. So you could see, a document, the name and creation date might be the same, but if you change one word, the files aren't the same. So you want a program that's going to, and it can be done pretty quickly. Just what they do is they create a hash of the contents. And then if the hash is the same, well, it's definitely the same. Good deduping programs do that. And I wonder if maybe a good dedupe for Windows will also allow you to do a file merge. Microsoft for a long time had SyncToy, which was designed to do that. Here's the one I guess it's the one I've used before. Let me just see if they're still around. It was a company called Centered System, and they made something called Second Copy. And it was originally designed for backups, but it has this feature. Yeah, it's still around. Looks like Centered Systems has moved to secondcopy.com. And the idea is you don't want to back up something that's you don't want to back up duplicates of the same thing. So Second Copy would check the contents of the file and merge them together for backups. And anyway, that's what you're doing. What you're doing is you're taking 4 drives and backing it up to a 5th drive. And you could use Second Copy to do a merge. So that would be one choice. They have a free version you could try for a while, and it's not very expensive. I've used this for years to do file syncing. Anybody listening, though, who has a great idea for doing this, SyncToy, yeah, Microsoft stopped updating it, so I don't recommend it anymore. PC Guy 88 in the chat room says, I use free file sync. I haven't tried that. Free file sync. And then, of course, Microsoft has a really good program no one knows about because it's a command line utility called RoboCopy. It's not a robotic copy. It's a robust copy. They had to make it because the Windows copy function was so terrible. RoboCopy is on your system. You might want to look at the documentation for it because I think it also will handle merges. And that's a very good way to do. Yeah, ability to skip files already in the destination folder. And they do it by identical size and timestamp. But that would probably be good enough. So RoboCopy would be a good way to do that. You RoboCopy files. You use the switch to say, don't give me a duplicate if it's already there. And you do it successively, one disk after the other.
And that's just called RoboCopy?
Yeah, it's actually on your computer already. Every copy of Windows has RoboCopy, but it's a command line utility. It's actually what I recommend if you're copying lots of data because Windows' own copy routine isn't very well written. So Microsoft some years ago said, we better give people a good one and we'll hide it. It's slow, but it's accurate. And it'll handle, it makes sure that the file got copied properly, it does verification. It does a lot of useful things. So I would take a look at RoboCopy. Marsworm is saying it's the /MIR option for mirror, but you might want to read up on the just Google RoboCopy manual and read up on all the commands. Somebody else is also recommending TerraCopy. I guess any copy utility that will say merge directories but don't duplicate files is going to do this. So we've just given you about 8 that would do that. RoboCopy you already have. There's an advantage to that. That's a good thing to learn, actually. If you have Windows, you should get to know RoboCopy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls right after this. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. And Mississippi Queen. Chris Marquardt, our photo guy, coming up in just a little bit. Talk about getting better pictures on line one. John in Leesburg, Virginia. Hello, John.
Oh, hello there. I'm glad to be able to talk to you.
Thank you for hanging on.
I listen to Security Now a lot.
Oh, nice. Our great security podcast with Steve Gibson.
Yeah, that's I've been listening for a few months, and that's really great. You're on that one.
Thank you. I do host with Steve, but he does all the work, so
right.
He gets full credit on that one.
Yeah, well, I've learned a lot from that one, and now see what we get on this one.
All right.
So here's the thing about LastPass. I use a screen reader, and LastPass and screen readers don't get along very well.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm going to call them and tell them. I'm going to read them the riot act because accessibility is really important.
Yeah, because I use a keyboard only, and so it's really hard to do. And so what I was trying to get is you can't talk to a human being in support, and the people that answer the email don't seem to have a clue.
Huh.
So I was wondering if you could get me to an actual human.
I can. And I think that knowing the LastPass guys, and of course they're a sponsor of the show, so I have a little bit of a contact with them.
Right. Well,
they're going to want to make it more accessible. So it doesn't work at all with a screen reader, or what's going on?
Well, here's the thing. There's a number of difficulties. In the screen reader world, you want to only use the keyboard.
Right.
And not use the mouse.
Of course not. Yeah, because you can't see the pointer, so what's the point?
Now, sometimes you can get some visibility there, but the screen readers try to give you what the mouse is over, but it doesn't always work.
Right.
And LastPass, you can't do LastPass like that. There's a lot of places where the keyboard just gives you different things. I was trying to add an item the other day from the LastPass.com site. I just logged into it, and I couldn't do it. I had to actually log in with the extension and fiddle-doodle around, and finally I got it. But it was it's generally a pain in the neck. So there are three ways to do LastPass. There's a standalone app, there's the web page, and then there's a browser plugin. And you find the same difficulty with all three. I only know of two: a browser plugin and the regular.
Take a look at a Windows in the Windows Store. There's a LastPass app. On the Apple Store, there's a LastPass app. They have apps for Windows and Mac.
Now, I do have that. I do have the Mac one, but that's a browser.
No, it's a standalone application. So
yeah, but you can't do anything with it. You log in once, and that I think that also has the same problem.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay. So I'm just checking. Let me just send me an email with your information, and I'll make sure LastPass gets it. Leo@leoville.com.
Ville.
Yeah. And so every company not only has kind of an ethical obligation, but I think in many cases have a legal obligation to make their software accessible. Results vary. Frankly, it's a lot of work, and it really helps to have somebody who's blind, deaf, have a variety of different accessibility people working with you so that they can explain what the issues are. And it's very hard for those of us who are sighted to understand what it would be like to use this blind. And I know that LastPass cares and would love to do this right. So if you send me your information, I will get somebody from LastPass in touch with you. I don't know if they have a full-time accessibility expert. Many big companies do. Apple does. Apple has a team. Microsoft does. I remember meeting the woman Microsoft, this was many years ago, had hired to go cross all different departments and go into departments and say, hey, look, I'm here. I'm the champion for, they call this accessibility, and I want to look at what you're doing, and I want to help you do it right. It just makes sense for them to do it right. So, and there's varying degrees of doing it right. So send me that information. I will make sure they get it, and I will go to bat for you, because that is something they absolutely have to do. Fortunately, I have a little bit of an in with LastPass. And by the way, I know them very well. They're great people, and they will do their best to get it right. Grant, St. Paul, Minnesota. Hello, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Welcome, Grant.
Hello, Leo.
So, what's up, Grant?
I have difficulty sitting for long periods of time. So that makes it hard to sit at my computer.
Yep.
So I want a way of mounting my monitor so that I can lay on my back.
Oh, interesting.
And look up at it.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever I see products for mounting, like a monitor or TV or whatever, it seems to be designed for mounting on a wall.
Well, it doesn't have to be. So they call these Visa mounts, or the Visa standards, the Video Electronics Standards Association. And all monitors, not all, most monitors have Visa compatible connections on the back. You might have to take something off. But that's because many, as you point out, many monitors are on arms on desks. Sometimes people have multiple monitors. But there's no reason you couldn't mount that on the ceiling. You need a longer arm. There are companies that make Visa arms of all kinds, and I would be shocked if they didn't have some. Do you need to mount it to the ceiling, or can you mount it to a wall? How do you want to do this?
Unfortunately, I have a ceiling fan, so that makes it hard to
don't put it on the ceiling. That would be bad. The Wirecutter has a good list of monitor arms, good reviews of a variety of monitor arms. The one they like is called Fully Jarvis. But you're going to want one that can be lengthy. The company Ergotron makes these, has made them for years, and probably has a huge variety. I would look at Ergotron's arms and see if they have one that's longer. You may also want to just get a monitor stand and mount it on a monitor stand. That way you can roll it around and tilt it at any angle you want. But the key is to look for a Visa-compatible monitor and then an arm, a Visa arm. All the arms are, because that's typically how they'd mount. This is how Apple, by the way, charges $1,000 for the stand for its monitor. It's got a Visa mount. And they say, well, we don't know if you want the stand. You might want something else. Hello, Chris Marquardt.
Hello, Leo. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. How was CS?
Exhausting, but fun. I had a good time. We saw the new Panasonic. It's not a GH. The new one that's a full frame with video height.
Well, there's that one. Yeah,
can't remember.
I was looking at the 1DX Mark III, the Canon.
Yeah, we saw the new 1DX too. We
Nikon D780, which
we saw a lot of
I find
new
interesting
stuff.
because it has a mirror. So
they're still
I'm
doing
a fan of the mirror. Did you see the Insta360 1R?
No, and
in the modular 360 / action camera.
Anthony really wanted me to go over and see that because
I think this is one of the most.
He loves
this
his
is
Insta.
one of the camera companies of the future.
Yeah,
these guys are hitting it out of the park.
Interesting. Yeah. He uses it. We use it. We've used it for some of our footage, our year-end hands-on tech review. Some of it was shot on the Insta360. He wants the new one. I'll have to get it for him.
On the 1X, and the 1R is modular, and they will come out with a 1-inch camera sensor.
My problem
module.
with those, I have the GoPro Fusion and I have the Ricoh Theta Z1. My problem with them is they're fine. What am I going to do with them?
Well, you can easily edit that footage into the spherical footage. You can edit this into
that's what he did with
footage.
That's what he did with the Insta. That was cool.
With moving panning the camera any way you like. Mm-hmm. I find that one interesting. The stabilization in those is interesting. So and I agree. Right now, if you have spherical footage, 360 footage, that there's not much of an outlet for that. But just think 5 years ahead, and when we all have those devices on our heads,
I guess.
It'll come. And then you have the
guess.
footage already. Then you are ready for it. That's my thinking right now. That's my justification for getting one.
I have them, and I never use them because it's like, well, I can't. What am I going to do with it?
Not yet. The future is upon us.
I have in the past posted, I posted a bunch of 360 videos from the Galapagos on YouTube, but nobody watches them.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Someday soon.
Matter of time.
I'm a fan of the Epson EcoTank printers. We have 2 at home. I don't know how many we have here at work. You can kiss expensive ink cartridges goodbye with Epson's EcoTank. It comes in the box with a ton of ink, a ridiculous amount of ink, up to 2 years worth of ink. And then, in 2 years, so you buy it today, you print thousands of pages, beautiful color. In a couple of years, in 2022, when you go to buy more ink cartridges, you'll buy more, not cartridges, bottles of ink. And by the way, they're color-coded. They're keyed. You can't do it wrong. So you get more ink, and you get a ton of it. You put it in. In 2022, you could say to the office supply store, see you in 2024. We bought 2 EcoTank printers. I've been using them for more than a year. Haven't had to buy any new ink. I got a second set just so that when it runs out, I can put the ink in, but that's not going to happen for a long time. Supersized, easy-to-fill tanks. You'll never hassle with buying or changing ink cartridges again. This is a revolution. It's really changing how you print. Less frustration, more time to work on the things that matter to you. Great for businesses, great for home offices, great for home, frankly. Print in your business, all your business documents, your reports. It's time for taxes. You can print the whole tax form and everything. Do it in color, not worry about it because you've got tons of ink. When you're thinking about the perfect printing solution, add the Epson EcoTank printer to your shopping list. And like Shaq, you too can fill and chill. Transform the way your home or office prints. Do away with out-of-ink frustration. And by the way, get the best printer money can buy. I mean, honestly, I've always used Epson since the very earliest days of personal computing. Go to epson.com/EcoTankLeo. EPSON, Epson.com/EcoTankLeo. Epson EcoTank printers. Just fill and chill. Epson, exceed your vision. Thank you, Epson, for supporting the Tech Guy podcast. And thank you for supporting the podcast by going to Epson.com/EcoTankLeo. That was easy. Chris Marquardt's here. We got a review. It's time to look at our industrial photos. A lot of industrial photos this time. Hey, I want to mention that Chris does great photo workshops at discoverthetopfloor.com, and I thought it'd be a good time to take a look at what's coming up, Chris. You got some projects coming up?
Oh, it's probably the most busy first half of a year that I've had in a couple of years. Nice. We have 4 big things planned. February will take us on the big ice tour to Lake Baikal. We'll be driving over the lake on Jeeps or in Jeeps, and it's the most amazing abstract photography there. In March, we'll go to visit the tribes in Ethiopia, which is in the Omo Valley. Very old cultures and old tribes that still live there. In April, we'll be in the land of the Thunder Dragon, which is kind of the official subtitle of the Kingdom of Bhutan in the Himalayas. So we'll be crossing that. And in June, we'll go back to the Kyrgyz Republic, where I was last year.
I want to do all of them.
It's this amazingly beautiful country in Central Asia. So I think we probably have to pre-record a few episodes because
no kidding, you're gonna be gone all spring. So if you are interested in any of these, discoverthetopfloor.com is Chris's website where he leads these incredible. I mean, it's for people who love to travel and love photography. Incredible expeditions.
It's both. It's not just photo pros. It's like a good mixture of everyone. So, Well,
we have a lot of very good photographers who listen because I was looking at the submissions. People really liked our assignment this month, which was industrial.
Yes, and I was happy with the photos that came in, and it was a tough choice. I've made a choice of 3 photos as usual. If you're watching along, they kind of have something in common. The first one is by Alan Guido, Old Industrial, and it's just a simple black and white shot of a sign that's on some machine. Scott Paper Co., Chester, PA. with a patent number. So it might be a printing press or a paper cutting machine or something. And I think the black and white really suits it well. It just is one of these old-timey things that you don't really see on newer machinery anymore, at least not in this kind of a beauty.
Why did you pick this? What is it about it that you like?
It's just it evokes a feeling. It evokes an emotion. And I've just recently visited a museum with a lot of old printing equipment, and there was a lot of that in there. So for me personally, it really kind of it latched onto that feeling that I brought home from that museum. So it was kind of a nostalgia thing going on here. Second one I chose is by Demilente, Blue Mountain Mining. And it's one of these shots where it's a telephoto shot, okay, of a mining operation. You see several different towers and then these conveyor belts between them and electrical wiring behind them and dirt roads and heaps of dirt and stuff. And the whole thing being shot with a telephoto lens, it compresses the depth. You can see the mountains are really close in the background, even though they're probably aren't. Looking at the EXIF data, it's a 200 millimeter focal length. So yeah, that brings it all together. I love how the mountains kind of disappear into the haze in the background. There's all this different stuff going on, and the whole picture, like the last one, is kind of almost monochrome. I mean, the last one was a black and white photo. This one is a blue. Blue. It's mainly blue, right? So blue is the predominant color here.
I've heard people say a telephoto lens flattens images. What does that mean?
It makes things that are close and things that are further away seem to be at a similar distance.
So it's all on the same plane almost, yeah.
Almost on the same plane, as opposed to a wide-angle lens where the close things appear really big and things that are not that further away appear very small. And so the wide angle, you could say, stretches out the depth, exaggerates depth, while the telephoto lens kind of puts everything almost on the same plane. And you can see this here, and it's a perfect effect for that because it turns those mountains into a really nice backdrop. Yeah. So good job on that. And the third one is by Gravel Gertie, and it's
I think it's of Gravel Gertie.
or of her truck. I don't know. The title is W900L Kenworth, which I guess is probably the type of the truck.
It's a Kenworth, all right. Beautiful shot. It's almost alive.
And again, it has this. So what are we looking at first? We're looking at a truck, a very industrial-looking American truck. Our European trucks look very different. So this is, for me, I think American trucks have something really industrial to them. So that's kind of the feeling I get. You look straight at it. It's nice how Gertie composed that, being very central, very symmetrical, straight on, because that kind of gives it some power. And then there are these yellow-orange lights coming at you. So, and they don't just shine into the camera, they also light the trucks left and right. So again, a bit of a monochromatic feeling, this has predominantly orange in it. The last one was blue. The first one was black and white. So really, those pictures have a reduced color palette. They all have like one very important primary color and then maybe some auxiliary stuff, but the one color dominates. And putting this into a picture and reducing the color palette always makes pictures stronger. So all three of you, great job.
Really nice. Really fun. These assignments are just that, assignments. They're not competitions. We got many, many great pictures. And thank you all for submitting. We have a tech guy group on Flickr, FLICKR.com. Flickr's free. Join Flickr. Join the group. That's also free. Renee Silverman, our moderator, will welcome you. And just browse through some of these because they are really nicely done. And every month there's a new assignment. Chris always gives us an assignment. We're going alphabetically. So the next one would be J.
Yes, J. And as usual, I have asked the community on the Flickr Tech Guy group to submit some suggestions here. And Street Photog 66 has provided this suggestion, Journey. That's the next assignment.
Yeah.
And for all in the group, now it's also time to start thinking about the assignment for the next letter, the K assignment, and submit those. But first of all, Journey, we'll keep this up for about a month. And yeah, looking forward to your photos.
You have 4 weeks. You could submit a photo a week. So get out there and get snapping. It's not, it's just for the pride of getting recognized and for having some fun. And really, it's just an excuse to take more pictures. Illustrate the word or concept Journey and then upload it to our Tech Guy group. And don't forget, Chris has those great photo workshops. Man, I'd love to go to Bhutan. I'd love to go to Kyrgyzstan. I've always wanted to see, I want to do them all. Go to discoverthetopfloor.com. Pick as many as you can afford. Go to all of them if you can. I certainly would. Will you be here next week, Chris, or are you leaving already?
I will. No, I'm here. I'm here for another few weeks.
I love the inspiration. I love the joy you bring to photography, and it always gets me going and saying, I want to take more pictures. Doesn't have to be with a fancy camera. Your camera phone's fine. But the assignment is Journey. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Leo.
Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. More calls right after this. Good. I'm glad we were able to get that plug in. That's great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. See you next week. And then we can think about, if you're gone, you're gone. It happened last year.
Let me give you
whatever we can.
Let me give an idea. I'll be here for 1, 2, 3, 4 more weeks.
Good.
4 more
give
weekends.
Us some more weekends to pre-record if we want.
And then we'll need to pre-record for 2, and then I'm back for 2 weekends, and then we'll need to pre-record for another 2, and then back for 1 weekend, and then I'm gone for another 3. So we'll manage.
We'll manage. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Call me, baby. Rick on the line from Torrance, California. Hello, Rick.
Hey, Leo. How are you?
I'm great. Welcome.
Hey, I've been carrying around 2 phones for way too long. I've been procrastinating on getting a dual SIM phone because the dual SIM standby versus the dual SIM active. And I'm thinking I should get an active, but rather than wait, maybe I should just go with the standby. Do you know much about what I would be losing?
I'm not sure what that term means, except does it one mean that you can switch SIMs and one means they're both active at the same time? I would guess that's what that means.
Yeah, pretty much that's it.
Yeah. So most new phones actually do dual active, which is great because what you can do in the settings, and this is, I think even iPhone now does this, you could do in the settings is say, well, use this SIM, this phone number, really. A SIM is that little card that goes in the slot on your phone that gives it its identity. It says, well, this is, you're Rick's a Verizon customer, his phone number is such and such, et cetera, et cetera. And you can have 2 SIMs. Many countries, India's the classic example, they have so many carriers that you go 2 miles and your old carrier won't work, your new one will. So dual SIMs phones first became very common in areas like that. But it's kind of an interesting idea for people like you, too, who carry multiple phones, or maybe you get a good deal on data from one company and a better deal on phone calls from another company and so forth. So you're seeing a lot of phones now support dual SIMs, especially because eSIMs are coming along. Those don't need a physical card. It's done electronically. And that's how Apple does it. They only have 1 SIM slot, but they also have an eSIM so that you can effectively have 2. So I'm looking at the definitions. Dual standby means both SIM cards can connect to their own mobile networks, but both are connected independently. So it's like 2 different phones. So dual active means there's 2 sets of receivers. Each SIM card has its own receivers. Where it matters is if you're on a phone call with 1 SIM card, if you want to get data at the same time from another carrier, you'll need the dual active. Does that make sense? That might be a kind of an unusual situation. The dual SIM card phones I have, and there are quite a few of them now, will let you say, I want to use this SIM card for data, I want to use this SIM card for phone calls, that kind of thing. So if you want to use, do you want to use data at the same time as you're making a call?
Not necessarily the same time, and maybe I misunderstood, but they were basically saying you could get texting back and forth on one SIM, and you would have to change everything around to get it to go through the other one.
Ah, and you would like both SIMs to be getting texts at the same time.
Correct.
That's an interesting issue. So there aren't a lot of Android phones that do this active thing, and it makes sense because cheaper phones don't want to put two radios in. Right? That kind of doubles the cost of the bill of parts. Let me see. There's a lot of reasons. I'm looking at an article. Let me see how recent this article is. I wish it had a date on it. It doesn't. But they say there are very few Android dual SIM active cards. So phones. So dual active Android phones, the Asus Zenfone, which actually is a great phone, doesn't get as much attention as it should. The Zenfone 2. The Huawei phones, in fact, that's the one I had, a P20, was dual SIM, and it had dual slots, and it was dual SIM activate as well. Looks like the Samsung Galaxy Ace Duos is the only Samsung that does it. The Lenovo Vibe, the Sony Xperia. This is a couple of year-old article, so maybe there are more doing it. Are you looking for Android or are you looking for iPhone?
Android.
Yeah. Well, there's some ones to look at. I would look at the Asus Zenfone. That is a great phone. I wish it got more attention. It really deserves it. It's in every respect, a really nice phone that doesn't cost a whole lot of money. It does do this dual SIM active that you're looking for. And I think you can get it unlocked, which you probably don't. If you want dual SIMs, you definitely don't want it locked, right?
Right.
So they also have great battery life on these Zen phones. So I would take a look at the latest one is the Zenfone Max Pro M2. Why do they come up with these crazy names? How is anybody supposed to remember that? 500 milliamp hour battery. That's the biggest battery out there. So that's pretty good. Yeah. So I'm going to put links to these articles so you can get the specific differences.
Okay.
Because this is kind of. It's not what I thought it was. It sounds like it might not be exactly what you thought it was either. I think that's an interesting question. Can I get text messages to two different numbers coming into the same, I presume the same messenger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's an interesting question, and I don't know if anybody addresses that. Usually what happens is you say, well, I want text messaging on this number, not both numbers. So I don't know how that'll work. Let me open the lines to anybody who has an idea. I know we have a lot of dual SIM listeners, and they may be can give us a better idea than I know. Hey, I appreciate the call. All right, thanks, Rick. That's an interesting question. So what he's looking for is the ability to have two numbers, two carriers, or the same carrier, I don't know, but two numbers on a phone. So that's dual SIM. But he wants to be able to receive text messages from both numbers. I think he'd probably be okay. And one way to work this would be to use something like WhatsApp or any messaging program that's tied to a phone number and give out that messaging app. Now, your correspondents would have to use it. But if you tied WhatsApp to one phone number and then had text messages, SMS coming in on the other phone number, you'd effectively have both working, but you'd have to convince everybody to use WhatsApp. And that's a little tricky. There may be another way to do it. Dr. Flay in the chat room says, what if you had SMS redirection? In other words, if you had a way of saying when they came to one number, all right, now forward that to the other number, and then they'd both come in. That might be easier. A service like Twilio, twilio.com, Twilio, probably would be able to do that. In fact, maybe that's the best solution, to use a virtual number for one of the numbers and a real number in the SIM, a real SIM and a real number on the phone. Then you don't need dual SIM. And you could use Twilio to forward text messages from that second number. You could even have that, if you used Google Voice, have that second number ring the phone. Yeah, it's an interesting question. If that's what you want to do, I think I would look at forwarding as opposed to dual SIM. iPhone XS, XS Max, XR, and the 11 feature dual SIM because one is a nano SIM and one is an eSIM. So that's how they do it on the iPhone. But boy, I don't know how you would get iMessages from two different phone numbers in one iPhone. That would be a little tricky. Verizon has something called Vice, VICE. Phoenix Warp 1 in our chat room says the Verizon secondary device push notifies. So you could have two devices with Vice, two phone numbers with Vice. That's an interesting idea. And then have the text from one forwarded to the other. But there are definitely ways to solve this. It's just kind of thinking in the right box. Oh, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Yeah, it's time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, CES, smartphones, smart watches. 8888 Ask Leo is my phone number. If you have a question, a comment, a suggestion, you can help some of our previous callers out. We've got some calls for help out there. 8888 Ask Leo. The website is techguylabs.com. You can go there too. It's free. There's no sign up, and even leave comments. So if you've got some thoughts, we got a lot of links, a lot of ideas for some of our previous callers, including our last caller who was trying to get the ability to get two different phone numbers, get messages into his phone from two different phone numbers using a dual SIM. We have some really interesting Visa mounts. Displays to Go has a rolling TV stand. ICW USA has an overhead arm, a wall mount that you can use your computer lying on your back. Some really cool stuff out there. So we'll put all of this stuff ends up in the show notes at techguylabs.com. techguylabs.com. Back to the calls. Scott, Laguna Hills, California. Hi, Scott. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo. Good to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you. Thanks for calling.
So here's my situation. I have a solar set of panels on the house. They're connected to the grid, so I'm not off grid.
Mm-hmm.
And every so often there'll be a spike, and it'll throw a fuse, and the system will be off.
Yep.
Okay. So it's an IP-based system, sits on my network at the home, and it doesn't tell me for 3, 4, or 5 hours that the system's even off.
Darn it!
So I'm
all that sunlight wasted.
All that time, all that sun.
The sun just beating down on the ground, doing nothing.
It's money spilling off the
roof. Darn it, I hate it when that happens. Ours does that too from time to time, and I have to manually go in. I'm kind of jealous because you have an IP-based system. I have to go in go over to the inverters and press a button and say reboot.
Well, that's kind of what we have to do. We have to throw the fuse on the sub panel.
Right.
So the fact that there's an IP-based system out there, I could ping it. But
yes.
I'm looking for a way to give us a text message for my wife and I to receive a text that's no longer pinging.
So what would be the source of the text? Does the IP control system have some information that you could use?
It's even simpler than that. The IP control system just falls off. It's tied to the electrical system, so it shuts off. So the address is no longer pingable.
It'd be So you're almost like you would be monitoring it, and if it stopped responding, then you want a text.
Exactly.
And this is there's something very analogous. Lots of people have systems that do this. If your web server goes down, if you can't if you can't ping my website, I need a message to come on my pager or my Slack. I need a text message. I need to be notified. So exactly. I have a feeling that kind of thing is going to be...
There's a lot of expensive data center type tools.
Yeah, there's like PagerDuty and stuff like that does this. But yeah, you don't want to pay for an enterprise grade solution.
So I'm kind of at the point where I'm thinking I've got to install like a Raspberry Pi sitting on the Wi-Fi and somehow do a persistent ping, and then when it disappears, go to IFTTT and shoot an SMS to pull it push or something. But it's getting super complex, and I'm thinking maybe your listeners know of some simpler way to do this.
Is the IP control publicly visible? Can you see it from the outside world?
No, it's sitting behind my NAT router.
Okay, so that's one problem right there. If it were public, then it wouldn't be too hard using Zapier or if this then that to say, can I see the site? There are a lot of different services that will ping an address to see if it's up and then ping you. But it's not public, so you need something internally to do that. And you might be right. It might be that the Raspberry Pi is the best way to do this. Let me think.
And I don't mind putting one on the network. But then I've got to write the code to say, this is the ping, and then how do I get the SMS message? And now I'm talking Twilio.
Yeah, exactly. You're writing your own little Twilio script, and that's another great one to know about. You obviously know what you're talking about, so I don't have anything to add to that. Yeah, Raspberry Pi, or geez, do you have a computer that's always on?
Well, I don't, and I kind of was avoiding that. But if I do, what would I run?
Well, that's what you're going to end up doing on the Raspberry Pi too. You would run a process in the background that would periodically ping. Is it a ping? What would it be? Is it a website? The IP control, is it web based?
It actually has an IP address, and it ties into the provider's cloud.
Okay.
So it's not really a website, but it has. I can get to the cloud and see their website. So that's when I see when it's off and on.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think what would be an indicator that it was down. If it's as simple as a ping, then there are plenty of ways to do that on a desktop or a Raspberry Pi, where you would, check a site periodically in a cron job, and then if you get a negative, then fire off a text message. That's not hard to do in a computer. It's really the thing that's unknown is exactly what would you need to do to see if the short had happened. What would happen?
The ping fails.
Yeah.
The ping is no longer a reply.
Does it? So it responds if you do an actual ICMP ping, it would respond unless it's down.
If I'm sitting on my local WAN, yeah.
Yes.
WAN, yeah.
All right. Well, then I think it'd be a simple thing to write a little program. Okay. Are you a coder? Have you done any coding at all?
A little bit. I mean, I'll fumble through it if I had to. That's why I was looking for an easier route.
Some prepackaged solution. I think even on I don't look. The answer is I don't know off the top of my head, but I can easily think about what I would look for if I were you. I mean, I first would Google how can I monitor, a website. If it's a ping, I think that's a simple thing to do. A quick little Python script that would send out a ping, see what the response was. If the thing is down, then you might still be using Twilio because you need some sort of SMS gateway. You obviously don't have that yourself, but Twilio is a very affordable service that would do that.
Do you like Twilio or Bullet Push, or do you have a preference?
I've used Twilio for a long time. Here's a question. Here's an answer. Scooter X in our chat room has found something on Stack Exchange, of course. That's where every programmer basically goes to crib ideas. In their Raspberry Pi site, ping a website and have an output turn on if it's online or offline. Now, what they're doing here is having a light turn on or off, which you might actually want. You might want a Hue lamp in your living room that goes blink, 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 but you'd also like a text message. And I would guess that the logic that does that wouldn't be too far off. We'll put that in the show notes at techguylabs.com.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Leo. Hey, thanks a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it does. And actually, I should have checked. I use Zapier, which is a paid if this then that. And I bet you if this then that or Zapier might have some ping logic. I'm just thinking that seems like the kind of thing, because there's plenty of people want to know, is my site up? Let me just quickly look at Zapier and see. I'm going to type in ping. Yeah, there's a couple of things. There's Fresh Ping and there's Pingdom, both well named. Here's get a new Fresh Ping alert with Twilio phone calls. So this is exactly what we were just talking about. It's on zapier.com. I think they have a free tier if you just want to use one of these. You'd have to sign up for a service, Fresh Ping service. You choose an event, and it would then call your phone or text your phone. So this seems like there's a lot of ways to do this. If you have an end phase, which I bet you do for your solar panels, then we're going to put a link Mike B has found that does solar panel status pings. Oh, nice. I actually I do this in a very manual way. If I will get a red or a yellow light on my end phase, if it's shorted out or it's gone down for some reason, every morning I look at it and say, is everything okay? And I don't know if it's okay again until the next morning. So it's probably a better idea to get some sort of system to do this. Chickenhead21 says, that's how the internet was invented. Some crazy guys at Cambridge University wanted to know if their coffee pot was empty before they went down to get a cup of coffee. The famous Cambridge coffee pot cam. I don't know if that's how the internet was invented, but it definitely was one of the earliest cams. I should just put a cam at that. That's what I'll do. I'll point a camera at that orange light. If it's green, I'm good. If you've got an idea, 8888 Ask Leo. We're all helping each other. That's what this show is all about. As user group of the airwaves. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. They're debating now whether it was for the coffee pot or the internet was invented for cats. I think cat videos wins. I like this project, though. I like this. This seems like a fun project. It's one of those things you start, and 6 months later, you finally got it working, and it plays music. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. Line 1, Jim, Denver, Colorado. Hello, Jim.
How you doing, Leo?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing real good. I think you need to really overemphasize the and the tech guy because that last one blew my mind.
That was a little geeky, wasn't it? Sometimes
something else. Raspberry Pi. I mean, you guys lost me right.
Sometimes I forget that we're supposed to be talking English, not geek. And you've been doing this for a while. Everything makes sense, and then I apologize. A Raspberry Pi is a little $35 computer that can run Windows or Linux. It's really an amazing thing. A lot of schools use them to teach. A lot of people use them for projects because at $35, well, that's not.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? In fact, I just have them to play with them. They're so cool. So that's what a Raspberry Pi is. Has nothing to do with fruit or pies, unfortunately. What can I do for you?
Well, Leo, my question's hopefully easier or
so
basic
too.
or just way off in left field.
Okay. Sometimes the easiest questions for you are the hardest ones for me, but go ahead.
Well, is a VPN really worth it for my family, for security, all that fun stuff?
That's a
and
great
then the
question.
second question is there a way to use a VPN to help control content for my kids who are younger?
Yes. So, no, a VPN does not do that, but there is something that does that will also help protect you a little bit. And that's a service I use called OpenDNS. Now, you may have this service in your router. If you buy an Eero router, a Plume router, there are a number of mesh routers out there that offer a $99 add-on. Eero is a good example. You'll get a VPN and you'll get content protection for your kids, but they're two different things. A virtual private network is really about encrypting, scrambling your data so that somebody who's on your network or monitoring your network can't see what you're doing. So they're most commonly used not at home, but at a coffee shop, at a hotel, anywhere you're on a public internet network. You might use a VPN to either call your home or to call the office or to call a VPN provider, and that way keep anybody on the open Wi-Fi access point from seeing what you're doing. Completely separate from filtering out the bad stuff for your kids. If you just want a software solution for your kids, you can put this on your router if your router doesn't have it built in. It's OpenDNS, opendns.com. They have a free and they have a paid service, and it does a number of things. It does make you more secure. You start using their DNS, but it also keeps your kids protected because they can't go to bad sites, and you have a variety of categories you can use. And this is something you might put on your router instead of individual computers. That way, every computer in the house is protected. So opendns.com to protect your kids. If you wanted to, whether everybody should use a VPN or not is really an open question. It depends on how nervous you are, how careful you are, and how much of a target you are. Sometimes people use VPNs at home because they don't want their internet service provider to know what they're doing. Number of internet service providers, including some very big names, sell the data that, but you know what? Everybody's selling your data. Your TV set is selling your data, for crying out loud. Sell the data about what you do online. That's valuable. And so a lot of ISPs do that. So sometimes people who are especially privacy conscious, I'm not going to use the word paranoid, but you might. But some people are especially...
I appreciate that. I feel the judgment, Leo, so thank you.
No judgment here, but some people are a little nervous about, I figure my ISP knows everything anyway. You would protect yourself against that with a VPN at home. There are downsides to VPNs, a number of them. The number one downside is speed. You do have some loss of speed because you're connecting through another server out there. A good VPN, we have a sponsor, ExpressVPN, that actually is just as fast as not using it because they have lots of servers and they devote a lot of bandwidth. But that can vary. There are other downsides. Some services won't let you use a VPN because they think, well, you're trying to hide who you are. Our chat room won't let you use a VPN because we want to keep people anonymous, trollers out of there. So that may limit some of the things you can do. Speed, limit some of the things you can do. Compatibility issues, that kind of thing. I think it's probably prudent to use a VPN when you're out and about, like at a coffee shop or at a hotel if you're traveling, because those are notoriously poorly configured, often very insecure. There, it probably is a good idea to use a VPN. At home, I don't, unless you really want to. Unless you're super privacy conscious, I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, it's overkill at home, but worth
think
it on
so.
the road. That's a huge help, Leo.
Yeah, that's my answer, I guess. Yeah. Thank you for putting that in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for, right?
And for your kids, I think OpenDNS is great. But if you ever upgrade your router, look for a router that supports that. And Eero is a fantastic choice. That's what we use for my kid, my 17-year-old. He can't get to violent sites, gambling sites, sex sites, adult sites. And it also logs his traffic. I keep an eye on him. And more importantly, perhaps even than that, it blocks malware. So a good provider like OpenDNS or Eero will keep you from getting phishing emails. It'll block that out. So that's great.
Thank you again, Leo.
My pleasure. Great question. Yeah, two different functions, both of which are very useful. And as with all of this privacy stuff, it just really depends on your level of concern. I'm on the air. live in the public. I'm more worried about security. I don't want to get hacked than I am about privacy because I don't have it anyway. But somebody else might be more worried about privacy than security. It really comes down to you, and this is where you have to kind of think about what your threat model is and what you want to protect yourself against. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Thank you, Lady Laura, our musical director. She's keeping our energy up, our spirits high, and our feet a-twinkling. Yeah, Michael in Simi Valley, California. Hi, Michael.
Wow, I'm on.
You're on! Yay! Sorry to keep you waiting so long. I appreciate your patience.
No, that's okay. I've got you on 3 different screens, and they're all on different...
Pretty soon, you're going to appear on screen 1, then you'll appear on screen 2, then you'll appear on screen 3. Bit by bit, we will get you on all 3 screens.
Yeah, well, none of the sound is on.
Good, because otherwise it would be extremely confusing.
Yeah, and I'm playing with Lightroom at the same time, which I'm learning how to use. So,
nice. Oh, fun.
Yeah. So
are you getting into photography? Is this a new hobby for you?
Well, it's actually an old hobby. I did, 35 millimeter for a long time, and I just got a DSLR about a year ago, but now I'm getting a little more involved. I was at CES, so I took a lot of photos.
Fun.
And Friday night, we went over to the Bellagio. I forgot my tripod, but I did have one of those little,
like a gorilla pod or something like that.
Yeah, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we went over to the Bellagio, watched the water show, and I wanted to do some, like 8 and 13 second shots.
Yeah, so the water smooths out and becomes soft.
Yeah.
That's a nice effect.
And I was really excited about playing with those today. And they're on my camera, but when I take the SD card out and plug it into the back of my computer, they're not there. Everything else is there, but not those photos.
Huh. You sure you didn't shoot video by accident?
No, because I put it back in my camera, and it's there. They're there, but they're not. I don't know what's going on. Now, I haven't tried to do the Wi-Fi thing. I have a Canon, just a Rebel T6.
Yeah, Canon has a very nice application that lets you copy it to a tablet or to a phone. I do that on the road. I still want to do what you're doing, which is take out the SD card and move it to the hard drive. But on the road, it's nice if you want to quickly post an Instagram or a Facebook or something. You could just read off the pictures you want from the camera via Wi-Fi. If you can see it in the thumbnail, I'm sure that picture is there. Remember, though, that the image that's displayed on your camera in the LCD is different than the actual file that you shot. It's an embedded thumbnail, not the actual photo. So I don't know why I even bring that up. The fact that the thumbnail's there kind of makes me think that the photo's there too. So you've looked in the first thing you look in is a DCIM folder, right? And you've looked in there.
Yeah.
And you see all your other shots. Are you shooting JPEG or RAW?
RAW.
Okay. So you should see those Canon RAW files.
Exactly. They're just files, but I don't know. It's
weird, isn't it? I would look through. You notice that there's a complicated folder structure. I would look at all the. In fact, I'd just copy everything off that SD card and go through it, because it was a time lapse. How did you shoot it? Did you shoot it a single shot with the shutter open for 8 seconds? Is that how you did it?
Yes. Yes.
So that should just look like a regular RAW file. That shouldn't look like anything different. The only difference is you left the shutter open.
Other photos that are showing up. I have lots of others that I took while I was at CES. And they're all showing up. It's just the ones that I took while I was, a Friday night in front of the Bellagio fountains.
So it's a mystery. The only thing, and this worries me, some, SD cards fail. This flash memory.
I heard you say that.
And it could be that those photos, this is why I mentioned the thumbnail thing, that the photo files themselves are gone. The thumbnails exist in some index somewhere, but the actual RAW files are gone. I think, I know that would be bad. So I would, there is software like Recuva, RECUVA, that you could put on your computer and run against the, is it a Windows machine?
No,
it's a Mac?
Mac desktop, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think Recuva is Windows only, but there are similar programs. You only have one SD card in that EOS, right?
Yes.
Okay. You don't have a second.
I've got others, but I'm only using one right now.
Yeah, some DSLRs have dual slots, but you only have one. I'm really puzzled. You might try, somebody's suggesting, this is true, that connect a USB cable to your Rebel and try pulling it off. In other words, using the camera as a card reader, maybe that will work better.
Right.
The camera sounds like the camera can see it, but it also may be that the SD card is damaged, and damaged in a way that you still see this is far-fetched, but it's possible, damaged that you still see the thumbnail, but that the RAW original is gone. And if that's the case, then you might want to try to run recovery software against that SD card. Although, honestly, when a memory cell fails on an SD card, it fails. It's gone.
Yeah,
it's dead.
Toast. Yeah.
So I would, maybe even be careful about using that card again until you solve this mystery.
Okay. No, good idea. Yeah, I'll try a couple of other things. By the way, I just have to say, your analogy, like CES being like a football game, I think it's more like a golf tournament because it's all over the freaking place.
It is huge.
You can't see squat.
You can't. There's 4,500 booths, each booth with multiple products. How could you see a fraction of that?
You can't, and that's why I was, like you said, just watch it on whatever.
Read the blogs. They're not gonna see everything either, but you hope that with 100 different journalists, you'll get the highlights anyway. The only reason to go to CES is, frankly, the same reason you wanted to go to a golf tournament or a football game, for the environment, for the atmosphere, to hang out with the fans. You don't go because you're going to get the best view of CES. Far from it.
Exactly, but I still love to go. It's a good excuse to go to Vegas too. So
I love Vegas. I know I love going to Vegas. It's usually a little more fun when there isn't a giant conference going on, but CES has so many toys. So yeah, do you go every year?
I do. I've been going for 16 years, I think.
Wow. You work in the industry?
I do. I do home theater installation, which we don't see a lot of at CES anymore. CEDIA is more applicable.
Right.
But I just love to go. So
and there's one thing you can't get from a tech blog, and that is the scope, the size, the majesty, the beauty of a giant 8K micro LED screen. Did you see Samsung's The Wall?
That's awesome.
OMG.
Yeah, exactly. The Sony one I thought was better, though.
Oh, the quality, yeah, I agree. I think Sony's was fantastic. I was very impressed with the Chinese manufacturers. Konka, TCL, Hisense, all had beautiful 8K. I really feel like 5-10 years from now, you'll be doing a bunch of micro LED installs. Those 8K micro LEDs just look amazing.
I think so, too. Yeah.
I told my wife, I said, that's our TV in 2028.
What's that?
I told my wife, that's our TV in 2028.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I know. My wife comes with me as well. And
it's a party.
Yeah, we look at that. Yeah,
Nice.
I don't know. Our wall isn't big enough.
Hey, a pleasure talking to you. I hope you didn't lose those shots. But at least if you did, you found out now before you reuse that card. I'd be very careful with that card. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Let's wrap it up right after this. That is an interesting question. That's a mystery, right? Oh, I should have said that. If you're importing from with Apple, I bet you that's what it is. I bet you that's what it is. Pinch Filmon may have nailed it. If you're importing with Apple's Photos app, and you're importing RAW, I should have said this. I'll say it when we get back. And you're importing RAW, I know you're still watching because you had 3 screens, it will not show anything it can't read. So I'll look at my card. With my Sony A7, it doesn't know the RAW file format yet. I'll look at the card and it says there's nothing on the card. There's no pictures. There is. Photos can't see it. So whatever you do, don't try to import it with Photos. You said you're using Lightroom. Lightroom absolutely should be able to read an EOS, what you said was a 6. Absolutely should be able to read that RAW file, but Photos may not. Apple's maybe not all the way up to date, so maybe that's it. Oh, but it's showing his other RAW files. Yeah, you're right. Darn it, that's not it. I thought I had it. Well, I just want to thank you for being here. I want to thank Lady Laura, our musical director. We couldn't do it without her. Of course, Kim Schaffer, our phone angel, answering the calls. Most of all, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me be your geek. Your tech guy, Leo Laporte. Last segment of the weekend. We're going to be back next weekend. I don't have to go to CES this week, so I'll be rested. Although, there is some stuff coming up. February 11th, Samsung says they're going to introduce the new Samsung Galaxy S phone. Some people say, is it the S20? It won't be the S... What would it be, the S12? The S11? I've lost count. Maybe the S20. Then I saw another name. Somebody else said, no, it's going to be the 2020. I don't know. We'll see new Samsung Galaxy S phones February 11th, and maybe a new folding phone, a flip folding phone from Samsung. So that's coming up. Let's see here. I want to go to line 3 because that's Hugh in Savannah, Georgia. Hello, Hugh.
Hey, Leo. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure. Thanks for calling.
I'll try to make this quick. I have a first cousin who's in her early 80s. I'm in my early 70s. And she had a stroke a couple of years ago. And unfortunately, a lot of her short-term memory was harmed. And she had purchased some records from either Apple, iTunes, one of those, where It was downloaded with a WMA file, but with DRM encoding.
Yeah.
We have looked and looked and looked, and we cannot find it on her computer. I have a buddy who's real whiz with Linux, and we were able to get the password to get into the computer, but we can't get into her folder. Is there something that will play that at least? So
yeah. WMA, by the way, is from Windows. Those are Windows media files. So she bought it probably from Microsoft Groove or one of the Microsoft music stores. She might have bought it from another one. But removing it is not a challenge. As you might expect, with most DRM, this is what's called digital rights management. I call it copy protection. Most DRM has been cracked and can be removed without a whole lot of trouble. You just have to find a program to do it. The one that I use is called DRM Media Converter.
DRM
Media Converter. But if you search for remove DRM from WMA files, you'll find a lot of these. And this is why I hate copy protection. By the way, she bought these a while ago because everybody stopped doing it because they realized it was no good. The only people who are at all, slowed down by copy protection is honest people like you. Crooks know how to get rid of it. It's easy. So so now guess what? You have to learn the tools of the trade. You have to learn how to crack copy protection. Good job.
Well, she can't do a lot of things because she is somewhat hampered. But
she wants her music.
She wants her music.
Music hath charms to soothe the savage heart. And I think her music very often, especially with people with memory issues, can bring back just a flood of memories, and it's just a wonderful thing. So I think you're absolutely on the right track, Hugh.
All right, DRM Media Converter, or just search for DRM removable.
Yeah, once you know that is what's called DRM, it's easy to find something to remove DRM from WMA files. But DRM Media Converter is not free, but it's I think $35. There are free tools out there as well. So there's lots of ways to do this.
Thanks very much.
My pleasure. You're taking good care of your sis. Take care, Hugh. I appreciate it. Yeah, music, of course. It's our it's the soundtrack of our lives. It's like others, like senses, like smell, but hearing it, when you those songs. Isn't it the case? When you hear a song that maybe your first kiss or your first dance, that the whole thing comes back when you hear that song. It's our song. Lori, Santa Monica. Hi, Lori. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo.
Hey, Lori.
So I want to help my dad make a photo book of some really old, amazing photos he's got. He's 86, so he's got pictures from
great idea.
When he was a baby and all kinds of neat stuff. And they're all in boxes, you can imagine.
Yeah.
Totally not organized.
No.
So I know I need to scan them. And I'm wondering if the best way to do it is from an app on my phone, which would be easy, or if it's better to do it from, like, my printer.
There are scanners that'll do photo scanning. Epson has photo scanners. Our advertiser, the Fast Photo, and it's fast because it's about 1 per second. So you just put them in as a sheet feeder. So you put a little stack in, it goes foop, 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 and it's done. But it's expensive, and if you're going to, it's great if you've got thousands of them. A lot of times the fastest way, that's probably the fastest. The next fastest way to do it, but it's a little more time consuming, is with your camera, with your phone, or with a still camera. The best way to do it would be to have a little easel you set up that's evenly lit, maybe even a tripod for your camera. You put a picture in there, you snap it, next one, snap it, next one, snap it, next one. And it's good to have it set up that way so everything's square, you don't have weird keystoning and stuff like that.
But is there an app that does that?
Oh, there are a lot of them. Yeah, if you search for, you said you have an iPhone or an Android phone?
Yeah, an iPhone.
Yeah, if you search for scanner, there are a lot of them. Google makes one. I don't think Apple makes one, but there's a ton of exactly this kind of thing for the iPhone. But I would get a little tripod and a little easel just so that, first of all, you don't want to have to, you don't want it blurry. You don't want to have to hold it up the whole time. So if there's a lot of them, I like the fast photo. That's really what it's made to do. A lot of people use it for that purpose. That's at epson.com/fastphoto, Leo. They're a sponsor. So, but you can also, it depends on kind of how much time and trouble you want to go. And in fact, a lot of people say, I ain't got the time. We had a bunch of slides, which are harder to do. You can't take a picture of slides. And my sister brought them down to a service bureau, and they cleaned them and scanned them for about, I think it was 30 or 40 cents a slide, which, given the amount of time, there's companies like Scan Cafe that will send you what looks like a shoebox, and you just put everything in there, and then you send it back to them, and they'll send you a DVD with all the pictures.
Okay.
So there's lots of ways to do this. If you've got the albums there, you don't want to take the photos out of the album.
No, they're the photos are
in shoe boxes, just like everybody else, right?
Yep.
Google has one called PhotoScan that does exactly this. It's smart, too, because if the phone's a little tilted, normally what you'd do is you wouldn't get a square. You'd get kind of a weird parallelogram. It will actually, they call it keystoning. It'll actually adjust it and fix it. So that would be a good one to try. Do it with your phone. See how long you can go. Are there thousands of them?
Well, I want to make a book, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, you're going to pick the ones you want. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's probably the way to do it.
I've used Apple Photo Book before, but they don't have it anymore.
But they'll refer you. They'll refer you to another one. Like my favorite is Blurb, BLURB. But there's also Shutterstock is great, and there are a lot of ways to do this. Not Shutterstock, Shutterfly.
Shutterfly, right? Yeah. And Blurb. Okay, all right.
Nice, Lori. That's a great thing to do for your dad. That's a great project. You'll have fun doing it too. Hey, thank you everybody for being here. I'm Leo Laporte. I want to say the Tech Guy, your Tech Guy. I'll see you next week. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on MacBreak Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.